Hikaru Nakamura with the black pieces. This is round 6 in Title Tuesday, Game Week 2, the winter split. Vladislav Artemiev in a nice blue shirt with the white pieces.
Yeah, tough pairing for Hikaru this. Getting another black, and he's going for the same opening once again as we saw in the previous game. And yeah, Artemiev chooses a slightly different approach here. He doesn't actually take the bishop here that he could have done and doubled Hikaru's pawns, but instead he goes for a very solid classical line here, just developing the pieces normally, and we keep a pretty common structure in this position. These types of positions are usually slightly better for white because white has a little bit better control of the center, especially now moving this pawn upward. Grab some space here. It blocks out Hikaru's bishop, and yeah, this is quite comfortable for white, but there are also decent winning chances for black here if he can find the correct ideas to play against the space advantage. So usually in these types of positions, when you have less space, you try to trade pieces, and this is exactly what Hikaru is doing now. The reason why you want to do that is because if you have too many pieces with little space, you end up getting quite cramped, and your pieces are kind of standing on top of each other. So what Hikaru now is trying to do is get rid of a few pieces, and his remaining pieces will have a lot of room to move around, and in the long term, he'll try to actually target this pawn in the center here, which later on can become a weakness.
Okay. Vladislav Artemiev from Russia, 27 years old, a grandmaster who is especially good in online speed chess. He played Title Tuesday last week, scored 7.5 points, and his best score from the autumn split was 9 points and a 5th place in Game Week 13. He's won Title Tuesday 5 times in history, definitely capable of taking the win here today. He is better on the bar against Hikaru.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that the computer usually likes these types of positions for white because you have more space. The computer loves space. That said, I think Hikaru has a pretty good variation of this type of structure, because usually you have this, but with many more pieces on the board. And in that case, white is often better with more space. But when Hikaru has traded a lot of pieces like here, I don't think it's as clear. So actually, I might rather take black in this position because it's very easy to find moves. You just keep developing your pieces. You can, at some point, maybe bring the knight in. You don't actually have to do much. Whereas white has to be a bit precise and try to build up the attack here. For example, by moving the knight, bringing up the other pawn, but that's also sometimes a bit risky. So even though the eval bar says slightly better for white, I think it's a good start for Hikaru, especially looking at the clock as well.
Look at that. Vladislav Artemiev is down to 2 minutes, 40 seconds on his clock. Hikaru still has 4 minutes left. He is playing incredibly fast today, Hikaru. He seems so confident and powerful today.
Yeah, he looks very comfortable at the moment. And now he's thinking about this idea with the pawn attacking the queen. But the main idea is actually getting the knight into this very nice square, putting even more pressure on this pawn in the center and seeing how this can potentially become weak. The only thing is, if he does that, he commits quite a lot himself, and his own pawn can become weak on c4. So he has to consider quite carefully if he wants to actually do that. So let's see what he goes for. He does actually do it. What is his follow-up? He does defend this pawn. Now, a couple of ideas here. Hikaru can either go for bringing this knight into the center at some point, but he has to defend his pawn first. So in that case, he can maybe try to move his queen here, so he's able to bring up another pawn and defend. Or he could just play this very slowly and try to stay a bit still and see what happens, because the pressure is on white here. I like this idea as well, trying to trade the queens. If the queens come off, it's maybe a good thing for Hikaru, because there's less attacking potential for Artemiev in this position. You're never going to give checkmate to the king in a long, long time. if this happens. And now he actually goes for a direct approach instead. Hikaru doesn't look happy about that.
No, it's listening. No, no sound on Hikaru, unfortunately. But something.
Yeah, I think what he's
bugged him.
Annoyed about is that now he has to be a bit careful with this pawn that Artemiev has in the center. It can potentially become very dangerous if it starts marching up the board. And a couple of moves ago, this pawn was blocked by a pawn that Hikaru had here. And it wasn't really necessary for Hikaru to allow this to open up and be traded. He could have just waited, not allowed Artemiev to march forward, and that would have made things more difficult for him. Whereas now the play is more direct, and we could easily see things get traded off here. Yeah, exactly. He goes for that. Now this pawn is captured, but this is very drawish, and it feels like Hikaru is not too happy about that, given that he did have some potential in that position.
So you expect this will be a draw by agreement?
Yeah, not quite yet, but I think it will be a draw pretty soon. They might trade off a couple of more pieces here, and then once it fades out to an equal endgame with no passed pawns or anything, they'll probably agree to a draw.
So even with 1.5 minutes more on his clock, that's not enough for Hikaru to play this on the clock. There's not enough pieces, pawns left on the board.
I mean, it's always possible because you can play this on forever. You can, even though it's extremely equal, you can just play 50 moves, move a pawn, play 50 more moves, move another pawn. So maybe that's what Hikaru is going to do.
Well, Sam Sevian takes down Maxime Vachier-Lagrave to go up to 6 out of 6. So Hikaru needs a win in this one to go to 6 out of 6 to keep that perfect score. Right now, this is looking like a draw against Artemiev, though.
Yeah, and this is the typical thing that we see. Hikaru doesn't allow the pawns to be traded off. He could have just captured this pawn. This would have been captured. But he tries to keep it on for as long as possible, which is a good idea if he's going to play for the win. So he's trying not to get the king into the game, either to start attacking this, or if he could get the king across, he would actually defend his pawn and can start attacking once again. I would actually give Hikaru quite decent chances of winning this, because you don't very quickly get traded off the last pawns here. I mean, you get these pawns you can trade, but then with the remaining pawns here, it's hard to do much. The thing is, Artemiev, yeah, okay, so they actually just take the draw.
Eventually, it is a draw between two giants. Artemiev and Hikaru agree to a draw, and that takes them both to 5.5 points. But we will see some players